You ever feel something shift in the air? That's what it was like the day she said she was going to a bachelorette party in Nashville. Something just tilted. Not enough to scream bloody murder, but just enough to make your instincts take a nervous breath. Her name's Lena, my wife. For 7 years and 3 months, which felt a little like owning a subscription you forgot to cancel. You keep paying, but you're not really sure what you're getting out of it anymore. Now, she didn't just say, "I'm going to a bachelorette party." No, she made a whole Broadway production out of it. Matching shirts, group photos, hashtags. One of those things that feels more like a brand launch than a getaway. And of course, the mandatory "don't wait up" with a wink. But here's the thing about Lena. She never drank much. She hated loud clubs. And she only really liked 2 of the 8 women in that tried. I remember staring at her luggage in the hallway, 2 full suitcases for a 2-day trip. Something about it felt performative. It's funny how betrayal doesn't arrive with fireworks. It lands in the small details. So she left on Friday morning. By Friday night, I was sitting on the edge of our bed, staring into the closet, not at her clothes, but at the silence they left behind. That kind of silence that isn't empty, but charged. Like the room itself knew before I did. And that's when I stood up. I didn't cry. I didn't call anyone. I didn't throw things or write bad poetry in a whiskey haze. I started making lists. Sell the couch she picked out when she wanted the living room to feel more open. List the fridge on Facebook Marketplace. Hers was the only juice in it anyway. Box up the wedding china. Donate it. Empty the dresser. My clothes took up 30% of the drawers, so I figured I'd help her match that ratio in life. By midnight, the hour in our house had been surgically removed. The real party had started. Just not the one she was at. No music. No lights. Just the sound of a man with a plan. And a truck. I started with the bedroom. Felt symbolic. The mattress? Gone. Listed it as lightly used, which was more grace than it deserved. Nightstands, sold as a set. Her favorite lamp with the tassel she swore made the room feel romantic? Tossed it. Romance, it turned out, had a new zip code. By morning, the living room looked like a real estate staging, empty, echoey, and fake. Now don't get me wrong, I wasn't raging. There was no playlist of breakup songs or box of tissues on the counter. I was calm. Surgical. I had reached the final stage of grief, garage sale. The TV went next. The one we argued about for 3 months before finally buying. Lena said she didn't care what kind we got, and then immediately cared about every single detail. I sold it to a college kid who asked me if I was upgrading. I said, in a way. That Saturday, while she was probably somewhere lying about how wild last night got, I was undecorating a life. I sold the toaster, the espresso machine, the blender she used 3 times during her wellness phase. Gone. Every beep from my phone was someone Venmo-ing me out of our past. By the time the sun set, I had 2 lawn chairs, a folding table, and a cooler with a 6-pack of beer. Every item I kept had one thing in common. I brought it into this house. Everything else left with her, even if she didn't know it yet. I ordered a pizza and ate it cross-legged on the living room floor like a man whose dignity had GPS. Then I wrote the note. No drama. No begging. Just a sentence. It's just as empty in my soul now. I placed it dead center on the floor, exactly where the coffee table used to be. And then I waited. Not for her. For Sunday. That was the day she was coming home from her little party. And I had a few finishing touches planned before the curtain dropped. Sunday morning rolled in, quiet and smug. The kind of morning where the birds chirp just a little too cheerfully, like they know something you don't. I sat on the back porch in one of the 2 remaining chairs, sipping black coffee and watching the sun climb over a house that no longer whispered home. At exactly 9:07 a.m., her name lit up on my phone. Lena, on the road soon. Can't wait to see you face-blowing kiss. That emoji? I swear it had more nerve than a tax auditor at a charity drive. I didn't reply. Why ruin the suspense? Now, here's where it gets interesting. I had changed the locks the night before. A small but satisfying gesture. And I had moved my car 2 streets over, out of sight, out of mind. Let her think I was still inside, maybe in the shower, making omelets, whatever fantasy she needed to step into. The clock hit 11:38 when I saw her Uber pull up. She got out with that same dramatic flair she used when she left, sunglasses, messy bun, a Starbucks in hand like some war-torn bachelorette returning from the front lines of glitter, wine, and questionable decisions. She stood at the door, suitcase beside her, fishing around for her keys. I watched from a neighbor's window. She tried once. Then again. Then she knocked. Then she called. Lena, hey babe, I think the lock is messed up or something. Can you open up? Sure I could. But I didn't. I waited. After 10 minutes and 3 more unanswered calls, she stepped back. That's when she noticed the taped-up note on the front door. She peeled it off, read it. It's just as empty in my soul now. She stared like the words had slapped her, which, frankly, was the politest thing they could have done. I wish I could tell you she dropped to her knees and wept. She didn't. She just stood there, blinking, like her brain was buffering the truth in 480p. That's when she reached for her phone, probably to call someone who wasn't her husband. You know, the friend who just happened to live in the same city she allegedly went to party in. Good. I needed that. Because what she didn't know, what made my coffee taste particularly bold that morning, was that this was only Act 1. She broke trust. I was going to break her illusion. Now let's rewind about 2 weeks before Lena ever packed her bags and fake eyelashes for her grand girls' weekend. See, I'm not what you'd call paranoid, but I am what you'd call observant. A husband who pays attention doesn't need a GPS tracker. He just needs to notice that his wife's perfume smells a little stronger when she's supposedly going to Target. She got sloppy. Started saying things like, I might be late tonight. Jess and I are doing wine and vision boards, while texting with a smile that didn't match the story. Her lies were dressed in yoga pants and scented candles, but they still reeked of someone else's cologne. So I did what any man with a credit score above 700 and nothing to lose would do. I hired a private investigator. Now, this guy, Pete, looked like someone who owned 3 trench coats and still thought fax machines were cutting edge. But the man was thorough. By day 3, he had a name. By day 5, he had photos. By day 7, he had a full report. The bachelorette party was actually a weekend with a guy named Colin, who looked like the kind of man who puts entrepreneur in his Instagram bio and still lives with a roommate named Kyle. The cherry on top? They were staying at a rental cabin I paid for back in March when I thought we were going to do a couple's trip. Oh, irony. You beautiful, vengeful beast. So I waited. Patient. Surgical. I made calls. I sold furniture. I found receipts. I printed screenshots. I built a timeline that would make a homicide detective proud. And then I started unloading. Not just the house, her life. Every package on autoship? Canceled. Every account I had joined access to? Logged in, emptied, closed. The shared Spotify? Replaced with a custom playlist of breakup anthems I sent to her new man via airdrop at just the right moment. Yes, Pete was tracking them that closely. She thought she was stepping into the aftermath of a sulking, wounded husband? No. She walked into the aftermath of a man who read the whole script ahead of time and decided to rewrite the ending. She finally got the spare key from under the garden gnome. Yeah, I left it there on purpose. Some part of me wanted her to open the door and see it for herself. To step across the threshold like a queen returning to her castle, only to find the walls gone, the banners torn, and her throne turned into a Craigslist pickup. She opened the front door, and for the first time in years, the house was honest. Nothing was where she left it. Correction, nothing was there at all. The couch was gone. The TV stand, bookshelf, lamp, rug, all of it erased. Like the domestic fairy tale she sold me had been photoshopped into oblivion. She stood there in the doorway, probably thinking she'd walked into the wrong place. But no, Lena, this is your kingdom. You built it on a foundation of lip gloss and lies. Now you get to enjoy it. Right in the center of the hardwood floor, the note sat. It's just as empty in my soul now. She read it. Her jaw twitched. She stood still. And then for the first time since this all began, she looked small. Lena wasn't used to being disarmed. She was the type who could weaponize a glance and recalibrate a conversation to her advantage mid-sentence. But silence? Silence is immune to charm. And I had left her nothing but the kind that echoes. She stepped in, suitcase trailing behind her, wheels clacking against the floor where the rug used to be. She looked around like something was missing. Everything was missing. And that was the point. The kitchen was gutted, appliances sold, pantry emptied, fridge unplugged. I'd left behind one thing, a single, laminated copy of the receipt for the cabin rental she'd shared with Colin the weekend before, pinned to the fridge with a magnet shaped like a heart. A nice touch, I thought. I knew exactly how this was going to go. She'd check her phone, try to call me again, get the out-of-service message. Then she'd scroll to her messages, trying to decode the moment she lost control. There wouldn't be one, because she never had it. She moved into the hallway, toward the bedroom, our former sanctuary, now reduced to drywall and air. The bed? Gone. The dresser? Empty. I'd taken the frame off the wall where our wedding photo used to hang and left the photo behind, folded, face down on the floor. At this point, she probably started to feel something alien. Panic. Not the kind you get when you lose your phone or forget your keys. No, this was deeper. Existential. The moment you realize the life you carefully curated has been set on fire, and the man you thought would always be waiting is already halfway down the highway, waving to the flames in his rear view. I didn't just leave her with an empty house. I left her with questions. With quiet. With the gnawing understanding that I knew. Every pillow she'd fluffed. Every plate she picked. Every scented candle she lit while texting him from the bathroom, I had turned them all into assets and sold them off like expired stock. I took the dog too, by the way. She didn't ask about him, but I know she would. Dogs don't fake loyalty. She didn't deserve him either. She sat on the floor, probably for the first time in her adult life, without a curated moment to frame it for Instagram. No filters. No followers. Just the raw feed of consequence. She must have thought I'd scream. That I'd cry. That I'd beg to understand why. But no, Lena. I understood enough. Because while you were off sipping Chardonnay and calling it closure, I was reverse engineering our life. Item by item. Lie by lie. And now she was sitting in the middle of a house where every wall remembered the truth, even if she never planned to. Here's the best part. She still didn't know the half of it. She didn't know I'd filed for divorce already. Didn't know the papers were en route, sent express to the address of her bachelorette weekend, Airbnb. She'd be served by name, in front of Colin, with photographic evidence paperclipped to the packet. Pictures of the two of them wrapped in guilt. Smiling. Holding hands. Sitting in the same hot tub I once proposed to her in. And because I believe in symmetry, I'd included a second copy of the note, folded inside the envelope. It's just as empty in my soul now. This wasn't revenge, not yet. This was just the invoice. And she was finally starting to read the fine print. They say the silence after the storm is the loudest thing you'll ever hear. Not true. The fallout? That's the real noise. It starts subtly, an odd look from a friend, a question that comes a little too late, a call that gets ignored one too many times. The world doesn't implode after betrayal, it just starts to rust, one whisper at a time. Lena didn't see it coming. That's the funny part. She thought she could control the narrative, same as always. That sweet, tearful, we just grew apart script she'd been rehearsing? Yeah, she never even got to deliver it. Because the moment Colin opened that front door and saw the envelope in the process server's hand, the game changed. His name was on it too. 2 sets of documents, one for her, one for him. Legal. Labeled. And laminated photos to drive the point home. Nothing says surprise like a high-resolution image of yourself mid-sin. I imagine he turned white. I hope he did. I like to think that even he, Mr. Bedhead entrepreneur with the emotional depth of a puddle, had enough shame to feel it in his throat. Now here's where things got beautiful. Colin? He had a girlfriend. Long-term. Serious. Probably had matching Christmas pajamas. Pete, my PI, dug her up in 2 days flat. She was sweet, worked in graphic design, and her Instagram was a shrine to optimism. I had no beef with her. So I mailed her a copy of the photos. No note. No explanation. Just the truth, sealed with a stamp, and the hope that she'd find better. Collateral damage? Maybe. But unlike Lena, I don't believe in lying to the people who love you. Back at home, or what was left of it, the circle started closing in on her. Her mother called me the day after she got back. Sweet lady. Never liked me much, said I was too calm, which is hilarious in hindsight. She sounded shaky. Asked if Lena was okay. I told her I wouldn't know. Haven't seen her. Haven't spoken to her. Try calling Colin if you want to know how she's doing. Long pause. Then a quiet click. That same night, her best friend, Amanda, left me a voicemail. Hey. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. I didn't know it was this bad. I thought it was just flirting. If I'd known, anyway. You didn't deserve this. Just wanted you to know some of us still have your back. I appreciated it. I deleted it. I wasn't collecting pity points. I was cashing out on clarity. Meanwhile, Lena, she was unraveling. Word spreads faster than apologies ever can. People talk. Screenshots get passed around. And it didn't take long before Lena's name started echoing down the long hallways of her curated little life. Her friends started backing away like she had something contagious. Turns out, empowered female independence doesn't hit the same when you're sleeping in a guy's Airbnb while your husband's selling the coffee table on Facebook. At work, things were worse. She'd used her paid time off for the trip, so when Monday rolled around, she had to show up like nothing happened. She walked into that office wearing the same mask she always did. But now, everyone knew it was a mask. Two of her coworkers had liked one of my posts. Just a picture of the empty living room with the caption, "Space to rebuild." Subtle, sure. But in the age of digital breadcrumbs, it was a blood trail. Lena was losing grip, and she knew it. I started getting texts again, blocked numbers, anonymous apps, throwaway email addresses. All with that same theme. Can we talk? We could have, Lena. We could have talked before the lies, before Colin, before the silence you mistook for submission. But we weren't partners anymore. We were opposing sides in a story she started and I finished. And here's the kicker. She still didn't know the last card I was holding. The one she would really feel. See, Lena had a little side hustle. Influencer stuff. Lifestyle brand ambassador for things like sustainable coffee and handmade scarves. Cute stuff. It gave her an identity online, and more importantly, it gave her a modest income. One she kept tucked away, just in case. Well, remember that laminated cabin receipt? It was paid for with that business card. The one tied directly to her LLC. So technically, she expensed her affair. As a business retreat. Turns out, that violates a couple of tax laws and a few terms of her brand partnerships. All I had to do was anonymously forward the statement to a few of those companies, along with some screenshots from her little getaway. That's not revenge. That's just housekeeping. I didn't need to destroy her. I just needed to stop protecting her. Because I've been doing that for years, hadn't I? Covering. Excusing. Believing. And now that I'd pulled the curtain back, I didn't need to throw stones. I just let the wind in. And the whole thing started to collapse. Lena tried to fight back. Of course she did. That was her nature. She didn't lose. She rebranded. She started with friends. Reached out to mutuals. Tried to reframe the story. It wasn't like that, she said. Things were complicated. He's just bitter. The classics. But here's the thing about a narrative. It only works when people are still listening. And by now, her audience had gone quiet. Amanda stopped replying. Our old couple friends? Ghosted. Even her sister, who once told me I'd better never hurt her, texted me saying, "You didn't deserve any of this." The tide wasn't turning in her favor. It was pulling her out to sea. She tried getting clever, texting me from a Google number, pretending to be just a friend who wanted to check in. I replied with a screenshot of the account's creation time and a waving emoji. That was the last message I ever got from her. Meanwhile, I was thriving in the most unconventional way. With each item I sold, every chair, every utensil, every memory-laced possession, I wasn't losing something. I was gaining distance. I sold our forever dining table to a newlywed couple. They asked if it had a good story. Oh yeah, I said. It's where I learned what betrayal tastes like. They laughed. I didn't. Her old bike? Went to a guy who said he was buying it for his girlfriend. I threw in a helmet for free and said, "Keep your eyes open. They don't all signal when they're about to turn on you." It wasn't bitterness. It was baptism by yard sale. A spiritual cleanse wrapped in price tags and folding tables. By the end of the week, my garage echoed like my trust once did. And it felt good. They say revenge is best served cold. I disagree. It's best served calculated. I didn't ruin her life. I didn't scream in public. I didn't key anyone's car or make a dramatic scene at brunch. I just held up a mirror and walked away while she stared into it. She lost her apartment because she couldn't keep up with 2 rents. Colin? Gone. Disappeared not long after he got served. Apparently, standing in the blast zone of your own bad decisions gets tiring. She moved in with her parents. Temporarily, she said. A reset. The company she worked with dropped her quietly, without comment. She posted less and less on social media. The influencer light dimmed. Nobody missed it. And me? I rebuilt. Not fast. Not easy. But clean. I got a smaller place. Fewer walls, but all honest. A little dog who trusts me without question. I wake up to silence that doesn't accuse me of anything, and I sleep like I haven't in years. Freedom doesn't shout. It exhales. 1 month later, a letter arrived. Handwritten. I didn't recognize the envelope. No return address. But the handwriting? I'd know it anywhere. She used to leave little notes in my lunchbox with the same pen. The letter inside was short. I made mistakes I'll regret forever. But I never stopped loving you. I just got lost in what I thought I deserved. I hope you find happiness, even if I'm not in it. L? No apology. Just a quiet acknowledgement that the wreckage had a name. I didn't respond. What was left to say? Some doors don't need slamming. They just need locking and walking away from. Because here's the truth, carved from heartbreak and sanded down by time. She emptied our home when she packed that suitcase. I just made sure it matched the state of her promises. And in the end, there was only one thing left for her to find. A note on the floor. It's just as empty in my soul now. But me? I wasn't. Not anymore.